Stuart, take us through the midfield though.
Well, we were asked a question beforehand, how do you stop Faltermolder? You've got to get touch tight and disrupt it and stop the ball coming into the and the space he's got amongst five West Ham defenders will form that. They might not think it's important, but from that, this is where the attack starts. Too many players are quite happy not to put any pressure on the ball and not recover quickly enough. And as soon as you can see the space there for Newcastle to build that attack again, Juve's not shown him out wide, he's not got tight enough, and he's enabled Murphy to twist and turn and open up a shooting opportunity. But from West Ham's point of view, it was almost a catalogue of errors from both teams, really, the old first half.
Just 4 minutes on the clock at that point. West Ham continuing their trend of being slow starters, 7 goals conceded in the opening 5 minutes, and that runs back to last season to present. So West Ham slow starters, they conceded the goal very early on, but then thought they should have had a penalty.
No, I can totally understand why the referee has given that. Certainly from his view on the pitch, it would have been tight to spot that Malick Chow actually gets a touch before he actually touches the forward bowling. But that was very, very good use of VAR in my opinion. You can see he clearly wins the ball before he touches the forward. So therefore, it was overruled, and that, in my opinion, is the correct decision.
Okay, so that penalty then overturned by VAR after review, and Jared Bowen not being allowed to be given the chance to take from the spot. I suppose this was the moment that made it 1-1 though. Before we look at it, Pope had a similar situation before.
I think that's a simple catch, and I also think this is a simple catch as well, rather than pinching it. But there's so many errors that I think you catch it and you don't give it back to the opposition. But also Bruno has to work harder and get closer to a quality player and back it up, otherwise he'll do that. And I also think the goalkeeper Pope should save it as well. I don't think it's a very difficult shot to save, but if you catch that, rather than punching it, you're risking giving it to the opposition on the edge of the box and giving the ball back. It's pretty simple for me, but yeah, there's too many errors from Newcastle, and that sort of sums it up. As I said, Bruno has to work harder to close them down, and I also think Pope should save it as well.
Yeah, that was an identical situation we showed you. Pretty the same reaction from Pope this time. He was punished. 1-1 at that point. This, though, a defender's nightmare, the way that West Ham went into the lead. They were on the up after conceding, actually.
Yeah, they certainly were. I think the second half of the first half, West Ham were the team that looked as though they might force the ascendancy. We looked at each other, myself and Alan, and said if the game's going to be won, it will probably be by mistake rather than a good piece of skill. And listen, we've all been there. You're recovering as a defender, and you can't leave them. You can't let them come across the face of you. They've not recovered quickly enough. But as I say, Dan Burn and probably Gordon has contributed to that space being down the right-hand side.
Sven Botman turning the ball into his own net. Newcastle started incredibly well with an early goal, but it is West Ham who are ahead at half-time. And Eddie Howe has plenty of rethinking to do. What can he change to perhaps get all 3 points today for Nuno? It's going according to plan. Second half is live after this.
Talk for 6 minutes at once or on multiple calls and get 3 minutes extra. Buy a new MTN SIM and enjoy 2,100 Naira extra airtime for 2 months. Text BG to 312 now.
The king of visual games.
Yes, that's Devil Straight Twin, sir.
You, skyscraper. What of you from up there?
I see all the crash points, sir.
Any sport that
Daniel Furry from our cross, sir.
He's the number one in Malta.
pathological optimism?
You have a bonus pick.
Hey, you. Are you ready? Welcome to the team. I am Jose Mourinho.
And we are football.com.
The true mark of real personal growth is discipline in the little things of life and living, like obeying traffic rules, not dumping refuse into the drainage or the median under the cover of darkness. Real citizens' growth is doing right even when no one is watching. That's how great citizens build the great nations they desire. Discipline is adaptation. Adaptation is proof of honor for our beloved country. 7 for 7. Keep the promise. Live by the citizen goals. Message brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Guys, food is ready.
Suitable for jollof rice, stew, spaghetti, and yam porridge. Cook to impress.
Your vibe, your drive, your next big fix. Yes, drama, thrillers, comedy kicks. Pause it, play it, or binge it. Made for serious, made for silly, made for now. Showmax.
Oh, and it falls through to the striker. What a goal! I can't believe it. We're just minutes in and it's already 1-0.
Oh, wait, Alex. Look at that fan. He's so emotional. Even his phone is getting some love. But wait, is he leaving? No, somebody stop him. This match is not over.
It is over if you play 1-up.
Get settled early with SportyBet. 1-up. Winning is now that easy.
Bournemouth are pulling up to the Etihad, where they have never won in the Premier League before, but they are the form side. They are second in the table, ahead of Manchester City and Donny Iraola's men, hoping to make a little bit of history and win there for the first time today. That's coming up later on. For now, though, we're firmly focused on East London, where it is West Ham who've battled back against Newcastle to lead 2-1 at half-time. Let's look at Nick Voltemada's involvement and his touch map, and what do we read into this?
Not good enough. It wasn't involved enough. One touch on the edge of the box. Even when the ball went up to him, it didn't really stick. So, like many of Newcastle players, I'll be really disappointed with the first half. And in fact, we're hearing that Voltemada's gone off and Asula's about to replace him as well as Fabian Schär and Jacob Ramsey. No surprise from Eddie Howe. He had to do something because that first half was dreadful from Newcastle. Looked very leggy and tired every single play.
Well, Newcastle with the triple change at half-time, then hoping to find a way back. It's West Ham winning 2-1. Here's your commentary team, Andy Townsend and Jim Proudfoot.
So confirmation of the triple change being made by Eddie Howe. Kraft, Gordon and Voltemada off, Schär, Ramsey and Asula on. This is the first time since March 2024 that Newcastle have trailed a Premier League game at half-time, in which they went 1-0 up. Last time it happened was against West Ham. They were 2-1 down at half-time. It quickly became 3-1. They ended up winning it 4-3 with 3 goals in the last 13 minutes. Wow. Still a long way to go. But Eddie Howe clearly far from happy with what he's seen so far and making changes as a result. Will they change the flow of the game? Now getting it forward. Guimaraes. Ramsey. Having share in centre half alongside Sven Botman. Chow will be given more licence than the other two to push forward, but they will build with a back three by the look of it here.
Yeah, Jacob Ramsey is a good ball carrier. And certainly, again, he's the player that will want to just operate in behind the West Ham midfield. See if he can get it on the half turn and travel into the space when he receives it. Like Somerville did really effectively for West Ham first half.
One back by Tonali. Now Ramsey. Too many opportunities in the starting lineup, but for Newcastle in the Premier League so far, he has suffered that injury that kept him out for 5-6 weeks or so, since his move from Villa, where he was such a popular figure.
Again there, just saw Joe Linton pass go straight, then another one. Fabian Schär to the middle of the park and doesn't find the target. That's the first thing for Newcastle. We'll try and get back in the game. Got to brush up on the accuracy of their football when they've got it.
Here's Murphy, score of the Geordie's goal, and blocked by Somerville. Now Callum Wilson. And towards Jared Bowen. Paquetá making a run towards the far post. It was delivered in towards Somerville.
Lucky. Nice positive work again from Jared Bowen. He's left one-on-one with Dan Burn. He's always going to skip beyond it. Just couldn't find a claret blue shirt in the box.
Well, Newcastle have struggled on the road. They haven't won any of the last 7 league games away from St James Park, which is their worst run under Eddie Howe. 3 of their 4 away league games this season have ended 0-0. The only one in which they've scored before today, they've lost 2-1. That was at Brighton. Ball from Diouf. It's in by Somerville. One back by Tonali. Operating in a much wider position on the Newcastle left now. Somerville gets it away. Wan-Bissaka. Fernandez put under immediate pressure. He's shown up well on his full Premier League debut, more touches than any other West Ham player in that first half.
Yeah, I mentioned Jim, but I think he done particularly well, Freddie Potts. It's just a nice, calm, assured, simple game that he's got, which is often all that's required there, but you just need someone usually with a bit more experience than the young man has, but he's done fine. He's done really well so far.
A decent loan spell last season at Portsmouth in the Championship. And has gone off the bench in 3 of the last 4 league games before today, so Mono's given him opportunity. Chow coming forward here for Newcastle. Murphy towards Guimaraes. Somerville back in defensive duty. Paquetá trying to bring it away. Trying to buy a free kick. Free Jones not fooled by that. Ramsey that has it out for Newcastle. Joelinton. away by Tolchibo, but the pressure is beginning to intensify from Newcastle.
Well, they're going to ask questions, aren't they? You would expect that. He would expect that. He's got to ask that back four, particularly to Jibo and Kilman, to be communicating, talking, and keeping those midfield players in front of them aware of any runners, etc. Just focus and concentrate on the defensive work.
They did have the worst defensive record in the country coming into this weekend, West Ham. Sticking more goals a game than anyone else, 20 in 9 before today. It was the earliest they've conceded 20 in the season since 1967. And Newcastle haven't really been able to force too many opportunities to exploit that so far. They have had much more of the ball in the second half, though, as you can see. Early days, of course, but it's actually in the 80s for the Toon in this second half since they made the changes.
That's not a surprise, Jim. I think, given what Eddie Howe did at half-time, the changes he made, what he probably said, and the fact that West Ham also have the lead, they have something to defend, and naturally just are happy to sit back behind the ball. Just got to be careful you don't drop too deep.
Hoisted high by Murphy. Ariola honest. Well, they claimed it very comfortably. Now he's got to try and find a way past Will Asula. Taken quickly by Paquetá. Somerville going on the outside this time, driving it in. Easy to poke, bowling it out quickly for Bird. Joelinton, Ramsey. The angle on that pass. Wrong for Dan Bird's run. Numbers can clear. And find Wilson. He's got himself isolated against Fabian Schär here. Bowen making the run forward with Botman tracking it. The ball wasn't good enough to find him. Newcastle coming again with Murphy, and he's been able to get it through. Sula taken back outside the penalty area. The young Dane working it onto his right foot. That was far from effective when he had the attempt.
Yeah. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I think, just allowed Asula to travel a little too far there. In the end, they just about deal with it and get away with it. Fernandez it is that takes a bit of a knock. And again, I'm not surprised to see him warming up, because Newcastle need as much pace and energy at the top of the field as they can find.
Well, I mentioned that game that they came back 18 months ago to beat West Ham, having trailed at half-time. Harvey Barnes has scored Newcastle's third and fourth goals that day. And Season 2 watchers will tell you his best performance has come as a substitute. Not really able to influence the game as much as he would like when he starts. But coming off the bench, he can be really dangerous. And all 3 goals that he scored this season have come as a sub in the Champions League. It's Bird.
He's worked hard too, hasn't he? Good challenge that. He's complimented Freddie Potts really nicely today.
Perhaps he's found the winning formula then.
Yeah.
the heart of that midfield.
I think sometimes, Jim, you have to make a call as a coach, but you have to field the team what you believe is right for a little bit further down the line. And certainly, when we've seen Thomas Souček, who's been a really good servant to this club, again, between the two 18-yard boxes, I don't always see him getting on the ball an awful lot. He can always be a threat, helps out defensively with his experience. I think West Ham have to look beyond that now. They're at that point.
Newcastle with the throw, and Chow taken in from a good 10-15 yards further forward than he did.
Sometimes in these situations, when you see a team like West Ham now, they have the lead and they sit. And they don't really pressurise the ball too hard or too aggressively. I sometimes feel at home that's a mistake. They're waiting for Newcastle to hand it back to them, which they look like they've just done there. So job done in some respects, but problem is with that, sometimes you win the ball back, but deep in your own half. When you go after a team and pressure further up the field, you win the ball off them, then you could really be in business. Particularly with the fast players like Bowen and Somerville that they have. So it's always a risk, I feel, when you want to just sit off the game because you have the lead.
But it has stopped them doing what they were effective in doing in the first 45 minutes. Are battling. Ramsey emerging with possession. Joe Linton trying to get away from Potts, who is going to pass him on to Kilman. Newcastle made 3 changes at half-time. West Ham are going to be making their first very shortly. It's Thomas Souček who is getting ready. And we understand that Callum Wilson might be the player that is coming off. So there's another statement of intent from Nuno to protect what they've got.
Yeah. Maybe just ask Jarrod Bowen and Somerville to play a little narrower. Just making sure tactically now Souček is aware of where they want him to operate. Lucas Paquetá has played in that false 9 position, hasn't he, over the last few weeks? See that a little bit more now as well.
Ramsey for Murphy, Bruno Guimaraes. Switching quickly out towards Will Asula. Tamale for Byrne, and a Newcastle corner, their first of the second half. Well, he has had his fair share of injury problems over the last 18 months or so. He injured his ankle at Leeds. He hasn't started a Premier League match since then. Hopefully that's not a recurrence of the same problem. Getting sweet on that Tonali corner, which was, again, really well punched away by Ariel.
Yeah, a couple of times this afternoon he's come out and got a fist to the ball. Really done his job, the goalkeeper. It's another good punch there. Worked hard, Callum Wilson, Jim. Yeah, all he's been able to do really is charge around, try and back into Botman and Dan Byrne and those big Newcastle defenders and try and hang on to it and wait for a bit of support. No surprises that after an hour, Callum Wilson comes off.
Yeah, he's only made 8 Premier League starts over more than 2 years, so never likely to be able to get a full 90 minutes out of the 34-year-old today. But his industry is recognised by those West Ham United supporters. Souček coming on to replace him. And meanwhile, Juve, who was down inside his own penalty area, as you saw, I bet he's back on his feet and going to be able to continue. And he'll take his place inside the 6-yard box to defend this long throw from Dan Burn. Towards the near post and didn't get enough distance on it. Easy for Wan-Bissaka to get it away. And now from Murphy. Easy for Areola. His creativity troubles on the road are continuing. Baltimore goal at Brighton for 7 hours of play on the road so far this season in the Premier League.
And at the moment it's Thomas Souček, look, that's kind of operating a little further forward actually than Paquetá. Whether that will change, we'll keep our eye on that one.
Here's Chow. Wouldn't have expected too many opportunities at right back. Wouldn't have wanted too many opportunities at right back, to be fair. And the side have got a free kick here.
Good pressure again from Somerville there. It's unlucky to have adjusted to a foul, Jacob Murphy.
Souček coming back. Guirassy trying it second time. Way by Juve. Knocked up by Cher. Plenty of Newcastle possession in the 18 minutes of this second half so far, but very little to show for it, only just one attempt.
Need to start working the goalkeeper, don't they? Testing him at least, getting some shots away.
In from Chow. Oh, breaks Murphy's way and he's dragged it well wide.
I think West Ham need to get 10 yards further up the field here. They are content and intent at the moment on just sitting back, trying to protect what they have. And look, we're in the 64th minute. There's an awful long way to go yet, maybe be half an hour left or more. So you've got to try and be progressive. They've got to look to get people further forward.
So here is Harvey Barnes, passing the role of super sub on a frequent basis, and West Ham know exactly what he can do from that role. He'll be on in a moment, and I think that change in personnel is going to see a reshuffle all over the field as far as the Geordies are concerned. Barnes is going to come on here to replace Sven Botman. So I think Chow will go back in at centre half. Murphy may well come to right back with Barnes playing in his more customary position on the wing. So the man that scored one at the moment is the decisive own goal, leaves the field. Barnes coming on.
As I mentioned there, I think West Ham just need to try and just have better possession on the halfway line. Get their key players really, who are Somerville now and Jarrod Bowen, in the sort of areas to receive the ball where they can have a go at defenders. And they can possibly see if they can go and add to the two they've already got.
Now Fernandes has gone down. That's a free kick. Frustration etched across faces. Not a vintage Newcastle United performance on the road. Just 3 points from 5 games away from home this season. They can't turn this around, and 8 without a win. Joelinton still indulging in a lengthy line of back chat. Comes the Hammers free kick. It's a hit poke. Souček, I think, just got a deft touch in front of him. And 2 Newcastle players go for the same ball, but it's a corner in the process.
Yes, clever ball in there actually from Lucas Paquetá. Watch, fires it in, hard and low. Just looking for, I think, Thomas Souček, maybe if he can make any sort of contact on this. He's the closest one to it. Had he have done so, Nick Pope would have been in big trouble. As it was a good, firm hand from the goalkeeper.
Back from Somerville. Hoisted high, and Pope that time had to take a hasty step back and help it on its way over the bar. Still, Kilman waits for his first West Ham goal.
Yep, good ball in that. And Diouf, Max Kilman just trying to knock that one back across the goal. I think the goalie can catch that. But that's a decent ball in, good delivery.
His corner, much flatter. Subsequent delivery isn't finding its way through for Mateus Fernandes. Getting it back from Somerville, helping it in, lovely shape on that cross, but it'll be cleared as far as Barnes. Somerville winning it back, wanting to get it onto that right foot. A trademark chop inside, Bowen delivers. Newcastle struggling to get it away. Flag is up. Oh, it's going to be checked. Freddie Potts thinks he scored. But the VAR will have a look.
Wow, that's a big moment in the game, this one. Yeah, Dad looks on and just wants to see whether or not his boy has got the all-important third goal for West Ham today. Emphatic finish from young Freddie Potts, blasted into the net. Let's have a look.